Hello everyone, I'm Bangjie from National University of Singapore, and I'm happy to be here. There's a long flight, so I really appreciate your attendance and your time. So on behalf of my first author, Nan, and advisors Terence from NUS and Jiang from KAIST, I'm presenting our work, Can I Hear Your Face? Pervasive Attack on Voice Authentication Systems with only a single face image. So, voice authentication is increasingly integrated into our daily lives. For example, WeChat users can log into their accounts by reading digits displayed on the screen. Voice assistants like Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant provide personalized services by recognizing the user's voice. However, there have been several incidents where voice deepfakes compromise voice authentication systems. Yet, current deepfake attacks are still far from being pervasive. One main limitation is the need for high-quality voice recordings of the victim, which are really difficult to obtain. Downloading voice recordings online restricts the range of victims, and secretly recording someone's voice often suffers from background noises and distortion. So how can we overcome this limitation? Think about it. What about we replace the voice input with a face image? Since photos are relatively easy to obtain compared to high-quality voice recordings, and this is due to wide availability of your images online and easy capture of clear images with digital cameras. Hence, this leads to the following research question. Can we launch the voice deepfake attack leveraging only a single image of the victim without requiring voice recordings? Well, the answer to this question is our work, Foice, a generative model that synthesizes voice recordings from a single face image. Now let's imagine our attacker Mallory chooses Bob as the target. Mallory used Bob's face image as input into Foice and generating N candidate voice recordings. Mallory can then iterate through these N recordings, playing them through an external speaker to launch two types of attacks. The first one is a remote attack. For example, Mallory could search Bob's LinkedIn profile and use the profile photo as input to Foice and contact information such as your phone number and email as the account ID. Mallory can then use the synthetic voice recordings to remotely log into Bob's account. The second attack is the proximity attack. For example, in the smart home setting, Mallory can perform as a malicious visitor, and Mallory can execute malicious commands on Bob's smart devices, such as opening the door. For the threat model, we assume the attacker's goal is to compromise the voice authentication systems, and the attacker can obtain at least one face image. Now let's talk about how we can capture someone's voice attributes from their facial appearance. In fact, there is some kind of correlation between the human voice and the face. Now let's look at an example here. Looking at this man's face, can you get what he may sound like? Let's try it.
Hi, I'm Steve, and now screen.
Can we get the audio? Not sure if it works.
Hi, I'm Stage, and now screens Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Can you hear? It's right. At least, there are two options here. Option A is the one. So it's quite obvious that you could imagine that this man would have some kind of middle-aged man's voice, right? Sounds deeper, right? It actually shows some kind of expectation and association of face and voice in your mind. So to really understand why, the mechanism of voice production can actually help to explain. So human voice is generated by vibrations of vocal cords in the throat, and these vibrations propagate upwards to the lower part of your face. And then it creates the facial resonance. And people with narrow lower face tend to have a brighter sound. However, the connection here is really weak because human voice is largely affected by the inner body structure, such as the shape of the vocal cords and the chest. So for example, the vibration generated could also travel downwards to the chest to create chest resonance. A wide chest space usually leads to a deeper sound. So with this in mind, let's explore the core idea behind our work, Foice. We first model voice features as comprising two types of features. The first part related to the face are defined as face-dependent features, represented by the blue boxes. Other parts are supplementary features, represented by the green boxes. So these face-dependent and supplementary features together can create the unique sound of a person's voice. So with this modeling, let's now move on to the high-level design of Foice. Foice first uses a neural network that takes a face image as input and output the face-dependent features. Next, to overcome the challenge that face offers almost no insight into the supplementary features, we leverage the power of a generative model. This model takes the face-dependent features as input and automatically generates the supplementary features. This model outputs a complete set of voice features, which can then be used to synthesize voice recordings. In the interest of time, let's focus on core idea 2 for the remainder of this presentation. Let's now look at how we train this generative model. During the training phase, we use two types of input. One is the complete set of voice features, namely the ground truth, which we can easily obtain from a YouTube video dataset. And the second one is the face-dependent features extracted only from the face images. We utilize a variational autoencoder here. Note that this encoder only takes the ground truth as the input. The purpose of this encoder is to function as a funnel that filters out face-dependent features and only obtain the supplementary features. Then we have a decoder taking two inputs, the face-dependent features and the encoder's output. It is to combine these two inputs to reconstruct the complete set of voice features. Now, to ensure that the encoder functions correctly, we first train the encoder and decoder jointly using the loss to minimize the distance between the ground truth and the reconstructed features. The second key in training is to choose an appropriate encoder dimension. Essentially, the encoder removes unwanted features by dimension reduction. If the dimension is just right, the encoder only discards the face-dependent features while preserving all supplementary features. But if the dimension is too wide, the encoder will just retain all the features, and it fails to remove the unnecessary ones. If the dimension is too narrow, the encoder will discard too much information. So in our paper, we empirically choose the optimal encoder dimension that provides the best performance. Next, we also use the KL divergence loss to force the encoder's output to follow the Gaussian distribution. As a result, the supplementary features will be represented as simple as a Gaussian vector. This helps in the testing phase. Now, in the testing phase, we can simply sample random Gaussian vectors as input to the decoder. As different Gaussian vectors representing different supplementary features, this approach gives us the ability to generate diverse candidate voice features. Okay, now we have talked about the model training and design. Let's move on to how we evaluate voice. We evaluate voice using 8 systems, including popular authentication platforms like WeChat, Microsoft, and iFlyTech, as well as 2 state-of-the-art research-based models. We also evaluate voice on voice assistants like Siri, Google Assistant, and Bixby. Then for each subject in the test set, we use Foice to synthesize 100 candidate audios for each attack. For each subject, we define the attack to be successful if at least one of the syntactic audios can successfully bypass the authentication or can successfully activate the voice assistant. In summary, Foice can successfully attack all the 8 tested systems. When compared to the state-of-the-art voice deepfake models, Foice demonstrates comparable attack performance. In addition, we observed that combining face and voice, the attack success rate improves by more than 3 times. We also showed that Foice outperforms attack using only age and gender information. We also showed that Foice is robust to various types of image conditions, including occlusion and low resolution. In the interest of time, let's zoom into our main results. Please refer to our paper for other evaluations. So this figure summarizes the attack success rates across 8 systems, and all of which are vulnerable to Foice. Foice achieves a success rate of at least 50% for on-device authentication applications, meaning that half of the subjects in our test set actually vulnerable to voice. And this raised a security concern, as it demonstrates that the voice authentication systems that we use daily, like WeChat, are not fully protected and could be compromised by novel attacks like this. Now, let's zoom out a bit to look at some of the security implications. We believe that Foice is just the beginning, not the upper limit of novel voice deepfake attacks. And there's potential to develop even stronger attacks by leveraging dynamic facial features through video inputs, as well as optimizing the model structures. As these techniques advance, the threat posed by voice deepfake will only grow. At the same time, even with the existence of some of the countermeasures like deepfake detection and liveness detection, there is a lack of adoption of such measures in the real-world systems. As Foice demonstrates that voice deepfake attack could be more pervasive, not only limited to public figures or targeted victims, we hope that Foice can serve as a wake-up call, raising awareness among researchers and industry folks about the escalating risks in this field. In conclusion, Foice uses a single face image to synthesize voice recordings. Through Foice, we want to highlight the need to safeguard against novel voice deepfake attacks such as Foice. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.